Much fun. It's really so much fun. There's a lot of it in here and a lot of it up here. So this is basically what's fun. I hope they're not married by the time it's finished.
Started. So good to see you. So good to see everyone here. I want to say hi to our new friends. It's your first time here, right? That's why I'm like looking all around. We usually give out notebooks for all the newcomers that say like the L'chaim logo, but I think we ran out. So you're gonna have to come back regardless, Bonnie, okay? But everyone, welcome Bonnie to our L'chaim Center. I'm so grateful to have Bonnie is a friend of Adrian's. Adrian's like, there's a gem in the city that you don't know. I'm like, how is that possible? I think we have all the gems here already. And Adrian introduced us, and we're so excited for what's to come, all the connections that we can make and the community that we're building over here and beyond. Hi. How are you? It's so good to be back. So good to see you. Okay, well, it's good that we're all here. We're going to get started. We're starting a new topic, a new book. We're going to continue with Musar. So we took a short hiatus. We I don't even know if it was planned to do the whole book, but we started doing the traits of the matriarchs, and that was great, and that was really great. And we ended up doing an entire book of that. And now we're taking a pivot turn back to Musar, and we're going to be using this book as a guide. I'm not going to be using it so much in the book. I try to teach out of a book, but we'll definitely use it. Has anyone gotten the book? I put the link. Oh, you got it. Yeah. Okay, great. I actually have an extra copy if anybody wants.
From her.
Yeah. Okay, fine. And maybe I'll just give it to you for now, and maybe you'll help if we do some reading. Okay, perfect. If we read anything in the book today, you can help me with that. Janice. Okay, are we good? Yeah, a few. Okay, great. Thank you, Julie. Just a few pieces of housekeeping before we get started. So first of all, welcome back, everyone. I've seen some of you since I returned from Morocco, but some people were out of town, or you had there was like a Deerfield school day off last Tuesday, so some of you weren't here. So anyways, it's good to see so many of you back. And Purim is coming up, so that means, I think it's Monday night, Tuesday next week. That means there's going to be no class next Tuesday, but we're going to be Puriming over here. So you're all invited to come and celebrate Purim with us. So Monday night, there's a whole schedule for Monday night with Megillat Esther and a meal and games and all the activities for Purim. It's going to be really festive. Come in a costume, have a lot of fun. There might be a couple of chayyims involved, I'm just saying. Really? But yeah, just a few. But so that we just RSVP, we need to know just so that we could include you in the meal. But if you don't want to stay for the meal, just come for sure for free for the whole Megillah and everything. That's Monday night. And tonight I'm gonna promote I don't like self-promoting, but come to my class tonight. We have the Wheel of Wisdom. So tonight it was fun, and I'm going to be teaching my favorite teaching ever. So some of you might have heard it already, because I'll teach this every single year before Purim, and it's called the Pinnacle of the Year. And I'm going to take you through the Jewish calendar, going up this ladder, getting to the pinnacle, which is the holiday of Purim, because right after Purim, we start Passover, and that really is the beginning of the year. So we're going to climb through. This is like game changer. If you've never done this class with me, this is actually my Judaism in a nutshell. This is the inspiration for my life. This is something that I learned 25 years ago. And it has changed everything for me as a Jew, as a mother, as someone that's striving to have a meaningful relationship with God. So I'm going to just teach you, it's like, I'm literally going to overflow how I go through my whole year and how we're supposed to be growing through the year, and it's supposed to get better and better. And like, it's just an incredible system. So that's tonight. If you guys want to be a part of that, 7:30 here at the center, everyone is welcome. Bring your friends, your husband, your neighbor, whoever you want. It's open to anyone, any age. You can bring teenagers. It's an incredible teaching. Someone trying to get in? It looks like Julie's in the waiting room.
Julie.
Gail, are you managing it over there?
She teach you like 2 seconds before she walked out.
I think she's just testing me out.
Touch screen? Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, yes.
Maybe Julie wants to be like, maybe she wants to listen while she's on the road. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you.
Tech support.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you, Hashem, for always giving me fresh content, like real life challenges. Every time I'm about to teach a class on any topic, it's like, boom, like here you go. Here's your content for today, especially when it has to do with like marriage. It's like, boom, here you go. What a gift to discuss. So definitely this week has been a very challenging week for me. We're going to be talking about judgment today. That's the first chapter of this book. And it's a hard one because when we say, and do we say don't judge? No, because we all judge, right? So what do we say? Judge favorably or judge someone for the good. And there are many things that get in the way of us doing that. So we're going to discuss some of the obstacles. I'm going through a huge obstacle right now. I'm really struggling with this. So I studied the chapter this morning and it was like talking to me because the way that Ruchi breaks it down, there are 3 levels. There's the beginner's way, intermediate, and advanced. And sometimes I'm totally in that advanced space of judging people for the good, like in this really elevated, that's usually my norm. But right now I'm having trouble even getting to the beginner with the situation that I'm in. So I'm going to share the situation. Yes. Oh yeah, sorry, please.
So we learn
Basia Bat Minzel Leah needs a refuah shalema. So may the learning that we do today and the outcomes of the learning be in her merit for a refuah shalema. Thank you, Sue. Okay, so I'll share the situation I've been struggling with this week, and I'm open to any advice. It's definitely still very raw. The situation in Israel is really bad. It's really escalated. There's always something going on there, but this time it feels very, very personal. I don't know if you'll see it on all the regular news channels, but in certain parts of the country, there's numerous terrorist attacks that are happening, shootings on the roads, and just so many people have died in the last few weeks. Just the most innocent. There were 2 sets of brothers, these 2 little boys. I can't even look at the picture without crying. They were standing at the bus stop in Ramah. That's where David and Ali live. I mean, literally right next to the ice cream store. Like they weren't doing anything wrong. They were dressed for Shabbos and drive by. I think that was a car ramming. And then a couple days later, another 2 brothers were murdered on the road. Now this road is on the way to one of my brother's homes. So I have 2 brothers that live in Israel. My parents are actually there right now because they're moving to Israel. So they're there on their pilot trip, seeing where they're gonna live. The good news is they arrived at my brother's house, and within a half an hour of arriving, my sister-in-law gave birth to a baby by accident. And she wasn't planning on that, but she's like, I have no pain, and I just had a baby. Like okay, there was those types, and then there was like me, like later, you know. So yeah, so it's been like a really like up and down, emotional, beautiful, incredible trip. And also it's really, really hard what they're dealing with. So the road that takes you from, Jerusalem or anywhere, there are no safe roads really to get to where they live in this teeny little hilltop, this little settlement, in the Shtachim, the settlements, or, there's different ways of describing where they live. Like some people don't believe it's Israel, some people believe it's not it's like in the West Bank, or there's different ways of describing it. But the people that live there are a certain type. They don't care. Like they don't care about the danger. They're choosing to live there. They're usually, they're like these activists, and they're putting themselves there on that hilltop because they want to have a presence there. Their whole lives are I don't even think they realize the danger that they're living in because they're choosing it. They're living with, it's a whole different reality. My brothers lived there for a couple years. I finally had the guts to go there to visit him when I was there in July. I was so scared to get there. And I had my sister-in-law pick me up. And so I was in a private car, but I have never prayed so hard than going through this Arab village of Huwara, I think it's called. And that's where the two boys were shot on that road. So, so clearly we're all in a state of emotion, which is definitely something that we see. It clouds our judgment. We're not in our best place when we're just a wreck with all types of emotions. And also I would never live there. So there's also this like, how could I understand what you're going through when I would never choose that? I lived in Israel for 12 years, but we lived in our cushy little like safe place in Jerusalem, right? Like with like the store at the corner that sold, you know, Skippy peanut butter from America, you know, like we didn't exactly rough it, you know, we were, I mean, I thought it was roughing it, but we still had like Heinz ketchup, even though it was double the price, like, you know. So this is very different and I'm struggling. So have you guys been reading the news? So after this happened, after these, there's been so many incidents.
There's another one.
You know, the other one is my very dear friend's son's best friend. So she was actually the last person I spoke to before I came to this class, and I told her I'm struggling, and we had a moment together. So here's the struggle, and let's try not to judge. Okay. So when it all happened, do you know what the response was in Israel? Does anyone know what happened in Israel? Yeah. What happened?
There was, I don't know if you call it riots or whatnot, but there was retaliation. And so
Coming from who?
coming from some Israelis that burned some Arab homes and rioting, right?
Right.
And killed someone, right?
Yeah.
Or some people, right?
Okay, terrible. Right? Like, right? Everyone's shaking their heads, nodding. That's not how we,
Right,
that's not good.
right.
Right? That was not the IDF. That was not the
Right.
government.
It
That
was
was
like,
not
it was,
it was individuals that were like, enough with this.
right.
We're going in, we're gonna take matters into our own hand because no one is protecting us. No one's even talking about this in the
It
media.
reminded me, like, when I was reading about it, like in America, like when there's like some of these shootings and then you see people like in the US when they're that are rioting, like after a shooting that they feel is unlawful, but people take matters into their own hands.
Right, and then things could really get out of control. So obviously I'm horrified by what happened and the reaction. And I think all of us probably, maybe, might feel the same way. So this is my brother that just had a baby a week ago. So he wrote on our family chat, he said, I've never been so proud of my students. He's a teacher, 12th grade teacher. I've never been so proud of my students that are lighting the buildings on fire.
Oh.
That are lighting the buildings on fire.
Oh, God.
So it's like silence on the chat, right? Because I'm thinking like, okay, first of all, this brother of mine, I have to give the back story to who he is. Because you don't just live there for nothing, right? We're all old souls. I have 3 siblings. We were all named after these incredible lights that were diminished in the Holocaust. My brother, that brother, was named after Mordechai Analevich, if anyone knows who he is.
Oh,
He
really?
was the leader of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. He was 24 years old when he was killed, but he did not go down with the fight. They definitely did some damage to the Nazis. Like they were not going to be going like, you know how we say like sheep to the slaughter. They fought until the very end. There was a whole resistance. Mordechai Analevich led that. So this is my brother's name. This is who he is. So, you know, like your namesake has a very big part in who you are. So he's on this hilltop fighting the battle for the Jewish people in his own way. Now, my sister and I reading that were horrified. That's not how we fight. So here's the thing. There was a lot of conversation. Even my daughter, my 20-year-old daughter who's on the chat, she wrote to me, she's like, how could Uncle Mati say such a thing? Like That's terrible. She was so disturbed by it because that's not how we fight. So help me process this, because am I in my cushy little corner in the suburbs with my Heinz ketchup and my Skippy peanut butter and all the comforts? Do I have a right to throw stones, so to speak, or to even have an opinion about what's happening in his life or how emotional this is? These are his community members, and there's never an end to how oppressed they are, how much these are peaceful people. These are parents. They're just such good people. Regina.
So what I was gonna say is that, no, I'm not passing judgment. Certainly I live in my comfort. We have to understand that this is an opinion that many people have throughout Europe, that Jews don't fight back.
Mm.
And they don't fight back. And this has to change. And while I hate to see what's happening, I remember that a couple of years ago in Lod, it was the Arabs that lit Jewish homes on fire. So I think I'm okay with it, that let the world see that we will not sit back and let it happen to us. We
Right.
have to fight back. You're gonna,
Yeah.
and doesn't it Torah say somebody wants to kill you, you have the right to kill them?
The thing is, like, you know where my mind was? Because by the way, I don't expect us to come to like a decision here. Like, this is not, I don't want to make this political at all, but I want to understand how we could possibly come to a place where we realize how could you judge someone's actions when you're not there, you don't know, and to maybe put another element to add more to it. Like we'll never know. We'll never be in their shoes. Some people will say it's good, some people will say it's bad. What do I do with this? You know how, like, I feel like all the Jews, like, they're my brothers, they're my sisters. This is really my brother. This is someone that's one of like the closest people to me. How could I find a way to respect him if I don't respect his opinion?
That's what exactly, you just answered your own question.
But you normally respect him,
Oh, I always respect
so
him,
then you have to.
even though I
respect
don't
him.
always, but this is actually really hard. It's actually really hard. I don't think we're supposed to fight darkness with more darkness.
But that's the community he's living in,
That's your
and he's eats, sleeping and drinking it every day. And
And
that's-
you're eating.
and you're here,
Eating
you
Skippy
know,
peanut
so
butter.
you really don't know how it's affecting him per se, so you have to trust, the way you know him, you have to trust how he's reacting.
Okay, what if you don't know someone that well? What if this
Well, then
is not
then people
so
are gonna find
close?
judgment.
What if this is just you reading an article from someone's perspective and it's not in your inner circle? So now you don't have, I want to find a way of figuring out how to have a conversation, how to sit at the same table with my brother, he's my baby brother. I adore him, and I know that he's out there doing something that would probably be too hard for me, but I kind of feel like he's doing something really important. Like just his presence
There you
there.
go. He's
And I'm
doing something. important.
Grateful he's there, and I'm grateful I'm not there, because I don't think I'd be able to handle that type of life.
Right.
So it's very interesting. Does anyone want to add
I
something?
was just gonna say, from his situation, it's like self-defense.
Right.
Like in it, like if someone's breaking into your house, Eve, day after day, harassing your family, hurting your family, like at some point you're gonna retaliate. And it sounds like the community he lives in, this small community, this is his home.
Right,
Like
but-
they're,
But here's where I start thinking,
Right.
why does he have to live there?
what, right,
You know, like,
but it's just like anything. Why are you an observant Jew? Why, like
Right.
this,
No,
and so.
totally.
Like, this is his form of self-defense.
Yeah.
And he's seeing it as protecting his family, protecting his community. He wouldn't go out and do that otherwise. If he was safe, he's not a violent person. He wouldn't go hurt people. He's defending his,
Sometimes I'm worried,
yeah,
meaning he's a very, very gentle person. But like, some of these kids that went out and took matters into their own hands, they're in jail now.
but living in fight or flight
they are.
all the time. I mean, they're just wiring, they're
Right,
becoming
right.
wired
Right,
to be ready to act.
right.
Right.
And it's just the environment they live in.
Yeah.
the article yesterday and I was just horrified because I thought like as Jews, we're supposed to be better. We're not supposed to be like rioting and burning down buildings. And I'm trying to understand that what Katie just described and what others have described, but I feel embarrassed by it. And I feel like, I don't want to get too much into politics, but the Israeli government's very rightward shift is empowering this. And, you know, I think Marty made the comparison to protests here that get out of hand. And I can think about how people who do that have been so disempowered for generations and are just so frustrated, but I don't see the Israelis as being the underdogs, as being the disempowered ones. The Israelis have the upper hand, and then they're doing this rioting, this burning down of buildings, and I'm struggling with trying to understand.
They don't have the upper hand. I'm reading the article right here that our government, it's from World Israel News. Our government is expecting full compensation for all the Palestinian riots. But at the end of the article is the only time that they address the two lives of two young Israeli brothers and the shooting of a 27-year-old American Israeli. Where is the compensation? That's like,
But
that's your fault.
that's an article. It doesn't mean that the
No, but
Israelis do have the upper hand in Israel.
How do you
I
think
feel
we
like
have
they
the
do.
upper hand?
I mean, yeah, I mean, so it's interesting, just bringing this all to, because I'm not expecting any, I'm struggling, we're all
Can I say
struggling, we're all
something, Eve?
thinking about this. It feels very close to home. These are people that are being killed. And there's a lot of frustration that's really making people maybe not think clearly and act out of emotion or frustration. They feel like they're not heard by the world. And us here on this side of the world, you know what, the first thought that came to my mind, which I'm embarrassed to tell my brother. The first thought was, oh, how is this gonna look in the world?
That's right.
They're not thinking that. They're like, the world doesn't care about us. We are here, we are being slaughtered. No one's caring about us. So here's the interesting part, and Laura, do you want to add something?
I just feel like I'm all for defending yourself 100%. Somebody hits you first, you hit back. But whose house are they burning down? Not the person who shot, because they probably don't know who did the shooting. This could be a kindergarten teacher and her 8 children.
Right.
That's
very
not fair.
Also,
That's what's, that's not an eye for an eye, that's just real.
Can you
Yeah.
speak to the creation of the state of Israel and the Irgun and the Haganah?
I mean, I'm not gonna,
My point
That's-
is
that's all.
that there was a lot
Yeah.
of violence.
yeah, for sure.
And we've all seen movies about it, and we've all, and I mean, obviously I was a baby, so I don't know what the opinion was in those days. But the reality is there wouldn't be a state, there really would not
Right.
be a current state of Israel
Right, for sure.
without the violence that some terrorists, when they blew up the King Day, whatever,
Yeah,
a
for sure.
myriad of things.
Let's bring it all
Eve, can I-
back, because
can
obviously
Eve-
there's,
Eve-
I mean, Oh.
Eve, can I say something?
sure, who is that?
Sophia, hi, I don't know if you can see me.
Hi. Okay, you're gonna
Hi.
have to speak up really loud.
Okay, sorry, can you hear me?
I hear you. I don't know if everyone else can, but okay, just speak up loud. Okay.
Okay, so from what I heard, you said your struggle is how do I sit with my brother at the same table, theoretically and physically, right? Like, it's
Right.
like, how do I, because the main issue is that what you said earlier was, I believe we fight darkness with light, which is
Right.
basically the exact opposite of what you think that he is doing, right? Or he's supporting his view. His view is in direct opposition to that. So if you believe we fight darkness with light, then the question is, what action do you take then, right? Because here you've got two views that are in direct opposition from each other. This is your belief. But what all this to me shows is that your action is doing exactly that. You answered it, that if you're fighting darkness with light and that's your belief, then that's all you have to do, right? Because how do you show up with your brother if this view to you represents darkness? How do you show up with light, right? So you can stay open, you can stay curious, you can still sit with him. You don't have to agree with him at all.
Right.
You can completely disagree, but you can hear him out, you can listen to him, you can still have relationship with him, right? That's bringing light into a darkness. So you
Right.
can maintain your
Sophia. Sophia. Okay, thank you, Sophia. That's perfect. I'm gonna segue from that. Okay, so
Okay.
so
Yeah.
first of all, I'm a very spontaneous person, which is not such a good thing, because I should probably like take a walk around the block before responding sometimes. So when this was all happening and on our family chat, and my brother was literally in the moment, he's watching from his hilltop the city of Hawara, which is down the valley, in flames. So he is literally, and he has a newborn baby and 5 little kids. And this is an ongoing thing. And every time a Jew is killed, a terrorist attack happens, they're celebrating. He hears the firecrackers and the celebration. He lives with this, okay? So in my emotion and my judgment in the moment, and not thinking the way Sophia just described so beautifully, how you could really sit with not, you know, necessarily accepting, but still respecting, I made a stupid comment. And I said, you know how we fight darkness with light, which we all agree with. And then, so at the same time that this is happening to my brother in a different city in Jerusalem, in Israel, not so far away, Gadi's brother donated a kidney to a stranger. So this is, and it's been such a week. We just got off the phone with him. He's in so much pain, which I thought was not, I'm like, I've always heard it feel like it's not a big deal. He's like in the hospital for a couple of days and he could barely, like he has no strength, but he saved the life of a young man, he's 45, my brother-in-law, like 43, 45. And this man was slightly younger than him. And he never met him before, because they never know until the surgery if you're going to actually go through with it. So there's like no emotions attached, like you don't meet them, but now they're both recovering together. So I just thought like, wow, so this is how I reacted to what was going on in this chat, like this hatred that we had. I'm like, no, this is how we react. This is what we do. We do kindness. We do acts of kindness in the world. And I realized I need to shut up now, because they're both two different reactions and two different ways of bringing, like we just can't judge. Okay, so now let's go to this week. Does anyone know what Shabbat this is? It's the Shabbat before Purim. Every year on the calendar, the Shabbat before Purim, we read a very special Torah portion. And it's actually it's one of the mitzvot. So 613 mitzvot, you guys know most of them because we learn about them all the time. But there is a special, one of the 613 is to hear Parshat Zachor. Okay, so whoever's going to be here this Saturday, we'll be reading it, we'll be talking about it. There is an obligation for a Jewish person to hear the Torah's words. Remember what they did to you, how they wanted to destroy you. Remember that we have enemies that are always going to want to destroy us. We could talk about anti-Semitism from now until we're blue in the face, but this is not something that happened 2,000 years ago. This has always been in the bedrock of our people, that we will be hated. Never forget that. Live with that knowledge. Know who you are. We're a great people. Hashem wants to take care of us. It's crazy that we've gone through so much and we're still here, but it has not been a smooth path. Don't ever forget that. Remember to destroy the memory of Amalek, this nation that wants to destroy us. We need to wipe them out. On Purim, we stamp out the name of Haman, right? When many people, when they even say Hitler, like my mom, like she'll say like Hitler, and she'll say Yamach Shemo. Does anyone know that saying? Yamach Shemo, may his name be erased. It's like stamping it in. That's this mitzvah of getting rid of that evil, knowing that it exists, living with that knowledge. That is a special mitzvah that we always have right before Purim. Okay, let's go to our book. Whoever has it, open it up. I'm gonna try to jump around. I want to get to like the beginners, the medium, the advanced levels of understanding judgment, or how we could relate to this, how we could apply this to any situation. This was just one situation, by the way. Like there are so many ways. When I asked my friend Alyssa Felder, dear friend of mine who's in Israel now, comforting her son who just lost his best friend, 27-year-old man from Connecticut. Where's he from? Connecticut. that just made Aliyah to Israel, beautiful boy, young man, he just was killed today on the road. So when I spoke to Alyssa, who's a dear friend of mine, I said to her, I basically brought up my struggle. I said, because she's such a woman who loves, she's such a lover. So I said, Alyssa, like, how do you feel about what's going on? How people are taking things into their own hands? Like, I'm like still in my, I need clarity. And you know what she said to me? Eve, right now, I'm just loving my son, holding him in his grief, crying with him, being with him. Like, we always go into like, how do I fix it? How do I make sense of it? And sometimes you don't need to. I think that's always the response of we always try to fix something. And right now, we just need to be in pain, whatever side you're on, however you believe, just be in the pain with the Jewish people. We're going through something really, really hard right now. Doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. This is the Jewish people. We become one in tragedy. So the first thing I'm going to mention before we go into those 3 levels is here's a Hebrew word for you, new word of the day. This is such a powerful idea, this idea that Jewish people do not take nikama. Nikama means revenge. Nikama is a negative thing to do. We don't take revenge. Okay, what does it mean to take revenge? How an eye for an eye? Okay, but that's interesting because like if someone hurts your damages your property, they actually do need to pay you back. So there is tit for tat in Judaism. We do have that. When if someone damages something, there has to be a compensation. So I don't know if it's an eye for an eye. Give me some more. How would you think of revenge?
Revenge is senseless.
Okay.
Your reaction doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
So you're doing it in the emotional, right?
Okay.
Like, you're not thinking about what you're doing necessarily.
Okay. Do you think we could, and once again, without trying to place judgment, which is so hard because we judge, but do you think the situation of burning down a preschool teacher's house, right? Like as Laura said, like we don't know whose house that was. Could that be regarded as revenge? Possibly. And once again, like we're really trying to like step out of putting judgment, but revenge is a very ugly trait in Judaism. Okay, so it speaks about that over here. This idea of not bearing a grudge, carrying a burden for other people, kind of liberating ourselves from being the judge. Why do we feel, and I really, I don't know, because don't we always go to judgment? It is our go-to. Give me a totally small, unrelated, give me another example. Let's try to like move out of the very, very emotional thing. Like something happens with your kid's friend at school. Like, I don't know, your child is not invited to a 6th grade birthday party. Okay, like something that's, I mean, we could go really nasty on a situation like that. We could also bear a grudge against the mom, right? Now, what does the word grudge sound like to you? Just like think of the word. Like to me, it actually like words have like meaning. I mean, especially in Hebrew, like Hebrew words have a lot, they have a root.
That's
So there's a
nice.
lot. What does grudge feel like?
Something that nice.
What'd you say? Judge. What else? Drudge. Sludge. Like it just feels like it actually feels to me when I say the word judge, grudge, I feel like I'm schlepping a suitcase. It really feels heavy. Like just seeing the word feels heavy because we've all had the experience of having a grudge on somebody and it's very hard to let go of that grudge. Very, very hard.
The word nekama also sounds like neshama.
Ooh. But it's not. It sounds like, but it's not. Okay, so yeah.
I carried it for a long time. Yes.
How many generations?
Well, I go back.
No, it's true. Think about it.
My sister carries a grudge because I never paid my father back for a car he bought me.
Wow.
I think that's always like in the back of her mind.
Wow. And you could take that to the grave with you. I've seen that happen. I don't know if I should, Like, there was an elderly woman in my life, she died at 100 years old. To the last day of her life, she never spoke to her sister-in-law. And it was always this unspoken, it was a grudge. It was literally, I don't even know what the story was. All I know, like, think about it, like, that's a negative thing that I carry about this woman that I adored. But there was something, she was not letting go of that suitcase. So, yes.
And what if the reason she had the grudge was because she was hurt so deeply in the past? And that's just something that we don't
Totally.
know.
Totally, but we always say about forgiveness
Forgiveness.
is that forgiveness is the gift you give yourself. It's not whether you forgive her or not, it's not about her. This is your experience. Do you want to hold on to that? Someone once shared I think it's, don't let someone live in your head rent free. Like, why, like, this is your life. How do you want to move forward? You could hold on to the grudge. You could hold on to all the grudges in the world. But is that going to serve you in your life? In fact, we know medically and psychologically that people that hold on to a lot of bitter resentment, they end up becoming physically sick.
Which is interesting because like I have a very similar situation in my family. And the person who I guess you could say is holding the grudge has just kind of removed it. Like they're not a part, like I'm better without that negativity in my life. So like some people might think of it as a grudge, but to them it's like a cleansing act.
Right.
Like, I removed the negativity from my life, so I'm a better person for it. I don't have that anymore.
But you still have the grudge. Like, if you've chosen to cut that person off, that's totally fine, because that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
But once you could release the pain, you're better. You're better for it.
I just think the word, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just think like holding a grudge is kind of like an opinion. Like you might, like, I don't think that this person is holding a grudge. I think that they're doing what's best for them. But someone from the outside or someone else might think that they're holding a grudge against this person. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like I think of it as very cleansing. Like, you know, they realize that this person is nothing but toxic almost to them. So they would prefer not to deal with their brother, sister, whatever the sibling is. And I think of it as being very cleansing, whereas other people might think of it as, oh, you're just holding a grudge against your family. And you know, I can see both sides of it.
Totally. And probably one of the greatest apologies someone could ever get is the one that they will never receive. The greatest apology that you might ever get in your life is the one that you'll never receive. There are, and some acts are not forgivable, right? Like there's, you know, someone, I can't remember when this was. I was just at the Holocaust Museum on Sunday. I took a group of moms and daughters for the bat mitzvah, Dorot. And one of the girls asked, okay, so if anyone's been there or has not been there, you must go. We're actually gonna go with L'chaim. We're gonna take a group for Yom HaShoah. We did the hologram of Fritzi. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you have mothers and daughters and all the girls are raising their hands asking, you're asking her question. It's unbelievable.
And it's her.
It's her
And
and she's
it's
answering
amazing.
every single question. Like she's incredible. I mean, she passed away 2 years ago, but talk about legacy.
Amazing.
Her legacy will live
I know
on
her.
forever.
I knew her personally.
Unbelievable. So one of the girls asked, did you ever forgive? Such a good question from a 12-year-old girl. And she said, it's not up to her to forgive. The Nazis would first have to ask all of the people in her family that they killed. Like, how could she give forgiveness for an act? It's not only about her, right? She spoke about forgiveness. She herself has worked to become someone that's not, I mean, clearly she went on to really live a very full, beautiful life. So in order to do that, you have to stop carrying the grudge. You don't want to be that bitter woman. You want to choose love and joy in your life. And many people put that suitcase kind of in a cupboard and close it. And some of them lock the door, for many decades. It was Fritzi actually spoke about how she never spoke about it until her son came to her and said, you need to tell us, not for you, but for your children and for your grandchildren. We need to know your story. And that's usually the case of many survivors being quiet for decades and then coming forth. Because once again, it's not about them, right? They weren't doing this for their own healing, right? They locked that away. Okay, anyone wanted to share something?
wrote that book, The Choice.
Dr. Edith Eger.
Eager, yeah, so she wrote that she did forgive and.
And her forgiveness liberated her,
Right.
right? She even says, I mean, it's her book, by the way, if you haven't read this, must read. The Choice by Dr. Edith Eger. She says that she feels bad for Hitler and his henchmen. Like she feels bad. They need to live with their misdeeds. She completely liberated herself. She was a butterfly. Like even her, her dancing in Auschwitz. She was a ballerina and the Nazis would force her to dance for them. And she said she felt so free. It was them that were pathetic, right? So we have the ability to let go of so much for us to move forward in our lives. So nakama, revenge, doesn't necessarily liberate us. Revenge actually holds us back. Okay, so that's just like, let's just put that down. Yes.
It's just kind of like reframing it.
Yeah.
Like how you
Oh, yeah.
look at it.
Totally.
Like I have a family situation too, where there's like an uncle that doesn't talk to the right, and we've tried to have talks and, you just reach a point, like what we know about what another person has been through is like this much,
Right,
so, and so we can't even imagine to understand always why someone's acting a certain way based on life experiences.
Right.
And all we can do is try our best.
Right.
And then once we've tried our best, and if it's not going anywhere, kind of reframe it like, I'm sorry they're missing out on this family relationship and move forward. That's all they're capable of right now. I've tried my best. It's too bad they're missing out.
Right.
And kind of move forward and just reframe it.
Yeah, the power of the paradigm shift is, I mean, that's huge because that's how you could
You
move
can move
forward.
forward without
with-
maybe the grudge,
Right.
as long as you know
With
you
your
put your
clarity.
effort in.
It's your own clarity of
Right.
like, you made sense, because we all need to process.
Right.
We
'Cause
need
it's all
to
the
rationalize
perspective in our
things.
head, Too,
Right.
and if we're like, oh, they're such jerks, why are they not, and if you've done your best, they're
Right.
missing out.
Yeah,
Or
Love that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say that I think we have to separate the two. You're talking about a personal grudge or relationship from the horror.
Right.
that
Saying a
takes
national,
place with
global,
the
right.
Nazi
Right.
situation or what happened. Your brother and his family, they live where they live because they're needed to be there.
Right.
They're doing that for the state of Israel. It wasn't done. It was done for different reasons. They're protecting something.
Everyone has their why, right?
But when we talk about most relationships that you carry a grudge, it's a misunderstanding and why would you carry that grudge? It's a revenge. It's not on the level
personal.
of the Holocaust.
Right. So,
And I don't.
but
think we
I
can
think, if we,
discuss
so
the two.
everyone needs to move forward with their own, we're talking about every single person, right? Even when there's things that are so big out there, how does each person move forward? Every person will have their judgment, right? Every person will make their decisions, possibly might have a paradigm shift that might help them understand or elevate their understanding, if they're open to that, if they're open to expanding, maybe practicing curiosity, really understanding that they don't fully understand, right? So it could be on a personal level, it could be on a global level, but we're going back to the individual. Judy, how do you process a hatred that was really, even though it was for 6 million Jews that were murdered, it was just as personal to you. And this situation in Israel is just as personal to me or to you. If it was you on the road, they would have shot you. If you had an Israeli license plate, they would have shot you. It is personal, even though it's so big and it doesn't feel.
Well, your resentment though is that your brother took satisfaction.
Oh, I wouldn't call it satisfaction. I think there's a lot of confusion, but he said proud. He said, I've never felt so proud of these kids for standing up for ourselves. I don't know if it's satisfaction. I think there's a lot of confusing emotions. I mean, I don't know if there's any satisfaction in any of this, but it's interesting how something big is also so personal. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying. We have no right to forgive something that's bigger than us. That's what.
Well, I say they're two separate issues. One is your feelings for your brother. Are you going to hold something that he
Oh,
felt?
no, no,
and
no.
did again? You're not. They're two separate things. One is on a grander scale. Like I wouldn't buy a German car.
Right.
I
Or
mean,
Rosenthal train.
No, we don't.
That was my thought. Buy anything we want, but you don't buy Rosenthal train.
They're defending what's important to them,
Right.
but also
Right.
sickened
Oh, totally.
by
And I
that-
understand that that is true.
So
For
if
sure.
you delve
It could be
more
both,
into
like the
it,
both and.
that might help you understand
Right.
too, like he feels pride that, look how much this means to them, but this is sickening for him that they have to do that.
Well, it also goes back to the problem with social media and one line. A
Right.
conversation, there
Right.
would have been
Could go much
give and
deeper.
take,
Right.
or more. Tell me what you mean.
For
There's
sure.
more
for
emotion
sure.
there that you need to delve into.
Yeah. Okay, let's try to get to the 3 levels. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's 12 o'clock. See, I don't, see Bonnie, I hope you do come back. We don't usually talk like, we don't usually do this, but I just felt, first of all, do we? Sometimes, he says sometimes, but it's always a love fest over here. Okay, so I want to get to the 3 levels, if we could. Okay, so beginners, intermediary, and advanced of how we could maybe apply some of these ideas of judgment. Okay, so the first level is we say, with righteousness shall you judge your friend. Okay, betzedek tishpot et amitecha. That's the verse in the Torah that says, don't not judge. We all judge, but judge for the good, judge with righteousness, tzedek. It's like you want to weigh, you want the heavily weighed like compassion to be guiding you. Okay, so when we talk about this, we could talk about, as we said before, practicing curiosity, knowing that there's another side of the story. As Katie said, knowing that you're meeting someone in chapter 3 of their life. You don't know what came before, you don't know where they're going, you don't know what they're dealing with. Everyone out there is fighting a battle that we know nothing about. And everyone has something that they're going through. That's just like 100%, no one is exempt from tsaros, from hardship, right? And we can never judge because you can never stand in someone's shoes, right? It says actually, don't judge someone until you stand in their shoes, but you'll never stand in their shoes. You'll never have the experiences that they had. Another, I wanted to add on that. Oh, yeah, I've shared this before. So one of my go-to lines when I see something, especially in society or in the Jewish world, that I might not like, okay? And by the way, like I'm an Orthodox Jew. So sometimes I'll see something, read something, whatever it is, that, and I say to myself, well, that's not my Judaism, right? Like that doesn't talk to me. That's not what I would do, right? So you could go to a place of judgment straight away. So here is the line that I use in my head, and I've shared this with you. It's a game changer. Whenever I see something in any society, it could be my own society that I don't approve of, I say these words. It must be so hard to be them.
Oh.
Game changer.
Oh, wow.
Like you could do this with your spouse.
Yeah.
You could do this with your child, right? It actually helped me a lot when my son was, you know, Shimshi, when he was out of school for a couple months in high school. And instead of being mad at him that he got kicked out of school, I found this place of compassion. It must be so hard. The more I thought of it, the more compassion I had. To be a teenager in today's generation, I feel so bad for every teen, right? Like when you go home today, Stephanie, and your kid is driving you crazy, just to go to a place of, I can't even imagine. It was hard when I was a teenager 20, 30 years ago. So much harder now. It must be so hard to be them. And all of a sudden, talk about a paradigm shift, it totally shifts. You guys know a lot of the stories. I've shared so many paradigm shift stories. You know that famous story of Stephen Covey, when he's on the train to New York, the late night train, and some kid is like running wild. It's like 11 o'clock. He has a tea, he has his paper, he just wants to go to sleep. And this kid is running wild. So he finally just gets up and he goes to the father and he says, could you please control your son? And the father says, I'm so sorry. We're just coming from the hospital. My wife, his mother, just passed away.
Mm.
I don't know how I'm going to carry on. I don't know how I'm going to control him. I just don't know how I'm going to do this.
Mm.
And all of a sudden in that moment, Stephen Covey, he goes from feeling so agitated, upset, annoyed to feeling what? Compassion. That's the power. The power is, it's usually one little factor that changes everything. And there are dozens of stories like that. One of the stories that I probably might have shared, which is such a great story, is at the airport when I sat down after switching flights and in the middle of the night, I was exhausted and I got myself a coffee and a little pack of Oreos. And I sat down and I'm sitting there plugged in and I took an Oreo out of my little thing that I just bought overpriced, eating it. And the guy sitting right in front of me, also sharing the power bar, takes an Oreo from my thing. And I'm like, what a chutzpah. Like, seriously, I've never been so mad. I'm like, who can even ask? So I took another one and I'm eating it like mad. And he took another one. And I'm seriously like, this guy is crazy. There was only 5 Oreos. So there was one more. There was one more Oreo, it's the last one. And he literally broke it in half, took half. I was so mad. I took my bags and I walked and I was like, I'm going to just go to my gate. I was just mad. I'm like, where this world is going to. And I get on the flight finally when I reboarded and I opened my bag and my Oreos are in my bag.
Oh,
Seriously.
they were.
They were here.
Shared the last one with
I mean, I was all of a sudden, I literally was like swearing in my head about what a jerk this guy was to go into, he gave me half of his last Oreo and pushed it towards me. So, I mean, but these things happen all the time. And we have to be open to seeing the other side of the story. Very often we're so in the emotion or the anger that we can't even give space to seeing that, oh, I was wrong, because that takes a lot of humility.
Oh, that's so funny.
Isn't that?
Funny.
Well, it was literally at like 4 a.m. after, and we were like in between flights and I was in such a bad mood that, whatever, it was just, okay, so let's
You walked away and didn't have any dialogue with him,
I just thought he was like the world's biggest prick.
But they're probably when you're talking about it.
Well, actually, so that's the thing. He was told, like, he was just smiling, like, and that's why I hated him more.
He was
being
way too early to be.
This
So
poor
let's-
guy says, look at this woman, she's so hungry.
Right. Uh-huh.
Okay, so first level, beginner's level, all those tools, okay, trying to come up with a backstory, a possible backstory to help the situation. It's really, it takes a little bit of creativity to think like, well, what could this person be going, why would they be acting like this? So that takes a little bit of creativity on our part, because sometimes you're just like, I can't even imagine, like, why would she do such a thing? But clearly he was able to like go with it. He probably was amused by it. I'll tell you guys a little Jewish story. Okay, this is a story similar to this, but let's go back 100 years ago. True story about the Chafetz Chaim, which was one of the greatest Jews in the previous generation. He was the one to write all the books on Shmirat HaLashon, about gossip, about Lashon Hara. Brilliant, pious human being who died before the Holocaust. So in the early, I don't know exactly when he died, but right before the Holocaust. So the Chafetz Chaim, is it the Chafetz Chaim? Sorry. I'm getting my stories mixed up. It's the founder of the Musar movement. Okay, so we're even going back over 1,000 years ago. Okay, to the Baal Shem Tov. Okay, the Baal Shem Tov was the founder of Musar, right? And it obviously we've had over 1,000 years of the Musar movement. So then more modern was Rabbi Yisrael Salanter that picked it up. I mean, there's been many people to pick it up and keep developing this whole movement. I mean, Ruchi is like the most contemporary of all of these great minds. and Adeline Marinis, who comes before her, that we just finished learning his book. So we're going back 1,000 years ago. There was a lot of, I would say, fighting between different types of Jews. Oh, looks not much has changed. Okay, so there was the Baal Shem Tov was part of the Hasidus movement, and there was an opposing group of Jews called the Mitnagdim. Mitnagdim, or even the root of it, neged, is opposition. Their whole movement was to oppose the Hasidus movement. So you have Jews, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, but literally this was not just opinions, they were fighting against each other. We know that this is the reason that we're still in exile till today is because there's always been rifts and fighting between Jews, right? God wants us to be friends, to be one, to be close. That's why we're still in such a dark place in the Jewish world.
Is that
So-
baseless hatred?
Baseless hatred. So here's the story, okay? I gave lots of background to the story. This is the actual story. And this story blew me away. The Mitnagdim, these guys that hated the Baal Shem Tov and hated what they stood for, which was pure love. It was like there were like 2 different ways of being a Jew back in, we're talking about
Having had Mishnagim in the family,
Yeah,
their
okay.
theory was
Yeah,
that these people, and it was wonderful, found joy in everything.
okay,
And Mishnagim said, the world is terrible, there is no joy.
right.
And that was the conflict. My grandfather did not stand up to say Kiddush. That was sort of a joyous thing when you, and
He wouldn't
wasn't,
give
so
himself
he
that
sat down.
Okay, so you could just imagine, okay, can we imagine? So there's these like, woohoo, everything is good type of Jews, the Hasidim, and then there's the Misnagdim that are serious Jews that take it like, they just very different energies, okay? One was going to pelt the other with stones. Literally, his pockets were filled with stones, and he comes into the house, the little hut back in the day, of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov is the head of the other sect. And this guy has rocks in his pockets. He's ready to stone him. That's how angry and that's how much division there was between these 2 Jews. But in the moment that he comes into the house, he sees the Baal Shem Tov, who was a very holy man. He sees him saying the Shema. And he was holy. I mean, there was probably light emanating from him. You hear stories of the Baal Shem Tov. He was a great person. I mean, they were all great people. They were so devout and holy, and they were so connected to Hashem. They just didn't get along with each other. So he's in this holy moment of saying the Shema, and we know that when you say the Shema, we're supposed to cover our eyes because we're not supposed to see anything, or we're supposed to be in that moment. It's just us and Hashem. And so this other guy, he has stones in his hands and in his pockets. He's ready to pelt, but he can't do it. He just can't do it. So he actually backs out of the house and he dumps his rocks by the walkway, just dumps them. He's like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I thought I was doing this, and probably with his own good intentions of, I'm going to show them this is how Judaism should be. By the way, so much when you say those words, it must be so hard to be them. I always think this when I go to Israel, because you see such division amongst Jews. But what I see, what I try to, and they call Israelis sabras for a reason. Sabras are prickly pears. They're hard on the outside and soft on the inside, right? And I see Jews as being, we're very passionate about what we believe in. It's a good thing. At the root of all the craziness, there's such a purity of heart. We all believe so strongly in what we believe. This is what I think. I think women should be rabbis. I'm going to fight. I think women should be, whatever, whatever it is, whatever fight you're fighting, chances are the root is so good. It means that you have a fire in you. It's a good thing. Or you see lots of zombies out there in the world that are not fighting any battle, right? Jews are very passionate. We're stubborn. We're kashet oref. We have a stubborn neck. So this is the end of the story. He dumps his stones by the walkway, and embarrassingly, he leaves. You could just imagine him leaving with his shoulders down because he came for a mission to pelt the Baal Shem Tov, and embarrassingly, he realized this Baal Shem Tov is a holy man. He has greatness. I mean, how could I do that? So he leaves. The Baal Shem Tov finishes his prayer. He heard someone came in, left. So he comes to the door. He sees someone leaving with his shoulders down. He sees a bunch of stones. You know what he does? he goes, he bends down, he picks up the stones and he kisses them. Because he realizes that that fervor was also coming from a good place. Talk about paradigm shift. Someone was going to harm him, but he was able to somehow, he was on a very high level, see the good, even in someone that did not want good for him. That's like a really, really high level. Okay, so let's conclude, if we could, even though we got a little distracted. Okay, so the first level are all the tools that I gave, right? Kind of being curious, creating a paradigm shift, seeing things from a different perspective, understanding that you'll never know. The second level, the intermediary level, is a person is obligated to bless God for the bad, just as he blesses him for the good. Okay, realizing that it's all good. Okay, that's a very, very high level, right? So it's seeing whatever it is in front of you and turning it around, right? Being able to somehow, if you see something that looks dark, find light within it. It's turning around a very bad situation. And then I'll go into the advanced level. We'll close here, but we could develop this further. And she gives a really good example, which if you guys have to leave, you can leave. But advanced level is, this is the quote, "Beloved is man, for he was created in the image of God." It's actually looking at something that seems bad and not seeing it. Almost seeing something dark as if it's invisible. Seeing something, a mark that bothers you and seeing it as light. Okay, this is a very, very high level. It's using the ability that we all have to have unconditional love, right? We all love somebody, right? Everyone loves somebody in their life, but that person is flawed. So you love someone unconditionally, even though he, she, it, whoever it is, has parts that are not good, and you're able to see past it. So the highest level is seeing past the bad. Okay, that is seeing the image of God in every single person, right? We could do this in the world, by the way. You could do this in the grocery line, or, you know, or when someone cuts you off, or whatever it is. There are all these things that you could help yourself, that person also, just like me, is a piece of God, a piece of the divinity. So all of a sudden, you don't see the darkness, you see the light. It's looking for the light. And I'm going to end here. But to be continued next week. I'll just give you guys an example to think about, to take home with you. Okay, this is one of the examples that Rochi uses. She says, you're in your house, nice and cushy in the suburbs, and your neighbor across the way, when you look out the window, all you see are the toys that are strewn on the lawn. Okay, so let's just go through this. It'll take 2 minutes. Okay, so first, okay, let's just be normal. Who's judging over here? Okay, you might be judging. They have it. You're fine with it?
No, I said how fun they must be.
How fun. So that's the intermediary level. You're up there, Sue. She's been learning for a long time. Okay. So the first way is probably to judge. Why can't they get their stuff together? Why do I need to look at this mess? Right. The second way might be saying, wow, there must be something going on in their life. Maybe they need some help. Maybe, who knows? You know, they work so hard. They must be exhausted. They're raising all these young kids. It's creating the backstory. Second level might be, as Sue says, wow, they have so much love. Look, they must have a healthy family. It's seeing the good in the situation. And then I guess the next level might be to say, I don't know, like they're just, I don't know. What is the next level?
Maybe I can help clean if you want.
Maybe.
If I see them struggling.
Maybe
Okay.
if I have kids, maybe we can all have fun.
Right. So it's basically seeing the light. It's seeing the good. Which is, okay, I'm always worried that our neighbors are going to judge us. We don't have toys on the lawn anymore, but we also don't have a gardener, okay? But we're like, we might be one of the only people in our neighborhood that are paying so much money for Jewish tuition, right? For Hebrew schools, for all of our 6 kids. So I wonder if I'm judged by all my neighbors that have immaculate lawns and flowers growing in the spring, and they all have gardeners around the clock. We don't have that. I wish I could put this out there in the world saying, guys, it's not that we don't care. It's just, that's not our priority right now. You know, by the way, I'm the recipient of judgment probably more than I judge, right? It's hard to be an observant woman in the world out there, especially in Deerfield. It's like as if I have horns growing out of my head. Like I remember the first time I was taking a walk and I saw some ladies with their Starbucks and their Lululemon. And I'm like, hi guys, I really thought people would just be like, you want to walk with us? It was not like that. And still it's not. Thank God I found my people that appreciate me and I appreciate them. And you start like building your own circle, but it's not an easy place to come into. There's a lot of judgment. So I think we can all work on it and hopefully expand our communities, ourselves, our families, our communities to really make the world a better place. It is a happier place when we're not stuck in the place of judgment. So we'll end with that. And I wish you guys a great week. Yes, questions?
The best piece of advice I ever got was from Collins Rooney, who said, to each his own as the lady kissed the cow.
To each his own.
To each his own as the lady kissed the cow. In
Which-
other
Oh.
words,
Yeah.
don't judge.
Oh, wow.
I
If
love
it
that.
affects you, that's something else, but otherwise, you can whistle Dixie down the street and I could care less.
Right, right. It's, yeah. I'm gonna, let me throw another controversial, I don't know if I should go there, it's actually so late, but there's so much controversy in the world today. And it's like, almost like everyone needs to have an opinion about every single thing that's happening in everyone's bedrooms and who everyone, like all the stuff, right? Why do we care so much about what everyone's doing? Like, why do we think we have a right to judge? I don't know, it's something to think about. And also, like, do we think we're God? Like, God is the judge, the ultimate, the only, the judge. He's got it. We actually don't need to carry his burden. So I love that. It's like, just, you do you. Says it all. Thank you for that. Thank you.
My experience doing therapy. My mother was straight ahead. I mean, I judge, but then I'm like, I didn't say
That's a whole thing. We need to talk about that. Okay, let's be continuing with that.